You're tired of working day in and day out, trying to find new boomer customers, chasing leads, doing whatever work comes your way and never getting to earn what you're worth. You do it because you love the work and you're passionate about serving the boomers. We get it. What you need is more of the right boomer customers for your business and more income for you and your family so you can grow your company and help more people in your community. Well, you're in the right place because this is Booming Your Bottom Line.
Hi, and welcome to episode 50 of Booming Your Bottom Line and another episode of Owner's Chat. Today's guest is Jim Costello, Managing Partner and Senior Access Specialist at Affordable Adaptive Solutions in Pittsburgh, PA. Jim's been in the accessible and adaptive design industry for over 25 years. After a work injury left him with a disability, he found there were very few resources available to help him create a safe environment that his injury required. Seeing this void, he decided to take the opportunity to not only help himself, but to serve others who require a more accessible world, and he's been actively designing and consulting ever since. Jim's been on several boards, including the City Planning Commission for the City of Pittsburgh. He's also been the design manager and consultant for several accessibility businesses before he decided to become co-owner of Affordable Adaptive Solutions. Aging in place has become a large part of Jim's design services. As a baby boomer himself, he's begun to see that transition from the focus of placement in assisted living communities and the like to that desire we all talk about staying home and staying there safely for as long as possible. Jim uses his decades of experience as well as his familiarity with hundreds of products to create client-specific design concepts and solutions. Along with the rest of the team at AAS, Jim has created a business concept that covers every step of the process, from home assessment, design, and installation. Awesome, Jim. Thanks so much for being here today, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Oh, well, Jim, we are really glad to have you here. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And what we would like to do for our listeners is to have you tell us your story, the story of your business. We want you to share some insights and background so other small business owners across the U.S. and Canada and into the world, really, that are serving boomers can be inspired, learn from you as we chat here today, and so they can be encouraged in their pursuit of that small business dream to help the boomers and their families in the years ahead. So if you're ready, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Sure.
All right.
I guess the logical place to start would be how I got into this business in the first place. And as Aaron stated briefly, I was in what you would consider a catastrophic work injury back in 1989. I was a high voltage lineman, and I was electrocuted, which obviously changed my life forever, as well as it did the lives of my family and friends. But coming back from that injury, I realized that pretty quickly. I was away from home for almost a year between hospitalization and rehab. And when I got home, what my workman's compensation insurance company was offering me was not much as far as how to modify my home. They actually sent a fire restoration contractor out, and he admitted right off, I have no idea how to take what was a starter home then. I had small children, and convert that into an accessible environment for someone who thought he was going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. As it turned out, I am not, but that took a lot of work too. But he really had no idea. So over time, I realized there's got to be a better way, and I dug into this. And at that time, there was not a lot of information. The VA was doing some work, and there were some other things, but there really wasn't an accessibility movement and anywhere near the state-of-the-art things that there are today. But that started me, and it just progressed. I am self-taught in most of this, other than I had design and some engineering experience from the electrical industry that helped me in building. I also did some residential and commercial wiring, which allowed me to read blueprints and all that. So I did have a head start that way. But through the years, I worked with a couple of partners at different times. I had my own one-man consultancy for a while, doing ADA, personal injury things, stuff like that, and then for up until last year, worked with the team mostly that we have here at AAS at another company, doing similar things. But we have decided that we have more options here doing this kind of our own way. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about the type of work that you're doing right now?
Well, I would like to think that we're more broadly based than a lot of the. I don't even like to call them competitors. We have other folks in the area that do some of the things that we do. I don't know that there's anyone that does all of them. In that we are contract. We'll design something, and we'll provide the products in most cases, or most of the products, and we'll carry it through. Aside from doing that, the physical construction work, we also do quite a bit of consultant work, ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, consultation, expert witness for injury cases, in defining what a person is going to need in their home going forward, and a number of other things like that. We do. We'll contract with, say, a shopping center developer about maybe their parking lot, what they're going to need for accessibility there. So it's pretty broad based, and you just never really know what's going to come in what's going to come in the door as far as a project. But we like it.
Well, I appreciate the personal history of kind of how we got from A to B. How long have you been on your own as this venture, this business title, you as the entrepreneur?
We're coming right up on a year with AAS, and it's funny because it's not actually some of the things that we had planned that we're going. The best laid plans of mice and men.
Mm-hmm.
What was going to carry us through the first several months and all that. We still have a state budget crisis here in Pennsylvania, and many of our projects that we had already had lined up to do are stalled because of a lack of a state budget, because they were state funded. So we had to kind of regroup, but there is plenty of work. It's just a matter of getting the word out that we're here, and where this team is now. So part of it is just folks finding us again. But that's
And I'm curious,
it's a lot better now than it was early on. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm real curious, if you don't mind, you were open and candid. What did you change in your own home way back then, when there were so little resources, no internet, and physically, where are you at today? You're obviously at your office. I mean,
oh yes.
How did that all turn out?
What was interesting is that for that home, it was a 3-story starter home with Pittsburgh is very hilly terrain here, very, very hilly, and I had about 30 steps from the street to my porch even to get in the house, and then once you went in, there were 3 floors on the interior. So even the contractors that they sent out knew enough to say this is not likely adaptable. They were talking about building an addition to the side, but then I would have been trapped on one floor. And as I said, I had small kids, and so what I actually ended up doing was hiring an attorney and getting a structured settlement from my insurer, so that I could go and buy a house that was more easily adaptable. I bought a single level house and had to put a lot less into it that way. So, and in some cases, that is our advice to folks. Some of our seniors they love to cling to the family home, and in most cases we can do something, but in a lot of cases it's not cost effective to do it. And we may say to them, we may encourage them, look around in your neighborhood, because chances are here in Pittsburgh, all the neighborhoods seem to be, at least the older neighborhoods, there's a high side and a low side to the streets. So on one side, everybody's got 30 steps going, and on the other side, it's 2 steps. Yeah. So when people go, well, I don't want to move, they say, well, would you consider moving a block down on the low? Well, maybe, because the church is still there, their support people are still there and all that. And they go, I never really thought of that. And it's like,
well, that's why you're the trusted advisor. Good job.
Sure. And I would much rather help somebody get into the right home and do less work than I would see them put a fortune into a house that really is never going to solve all their problems, and it's not going to be a good candidate for resale if they do that. So,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, tell you what, let's talk a little bit about your actual business here.
sure.
What's your unique sales position? How do you differentiate yourself, compared to, we won't use the word competitors, to the other people in your city?
Well, for one thing, we are them. 3 of the partners here are over 60. So, so we are them. And we all come from different unique backgrounds too, would bring different skill sets to that. But I think one of the things that's been most successful with us, and again, this company's only a year old, but I've been doing this almost 30 years, is that I learned very early on in dealing with seniors that many of them are very reluctant to even admit that they have an issue that they need to work around.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be cognizant of that. And going into the ones that I do, I'm not out in the field as much as I used to be, but I'm able to walk and get myself up at least one set of stairs sometimes if I really need to get there. And they will start asking, well, what do you use? They realize I have a disability, and they'll go, well, what do you use? And I realize many of them do not want a hospital-looking environment, and they say, well, this is what I use, or this is what a lot of our clients are getting, even if they don't need it now, because down the line, you want to stay here for as long as you possibly can. So if we do something like this now and we do it more of a universal design that everyone can use it and it looks good, it's going to improve or at least not diminish the value of the house, they love it. But it's understanding that the minute they think you're trying to sell them something, the minute you open a sales binder or do it, they back off and they go, this guy's trying to sell me, because they relate you to the person that maybe at rehab when they broke their knee that says, here's the walker you're going to need, or here. So it's a different. It's far different than coming in and showing somebody your selection of drapery or carpeting. They want to see that. This, in many cases, there's an aversion to begin with, and it's a gentler, it's a solution based.
Absolutely, and you're educating them, and that's how you become trusted.
Exactly.
And I appreciate it's a great point that you being one of them, has value. You're relatable. You're pertinent to them. So that's really important for
both age-wise and having a disability. They can relate and will say, well, this is someone who actually probably uses some of this stuff, and he's working. He's out working. He has a business. So I'm going to respect possibly his opinion more than somebody in a medical showroom somewhere that's pointing to a brochure about something.
Yeah. Well, Jim, you mentioned the fact that you're working hard to get seen and letting people know you're out there again under a new name. And what are you doing that is working, since we're sharing an education for small business owners? Because we all know this takes a village, right? And if more of us get it right, more people get helped. So what are you doing differently that's working to reach, connect, and engage with the boomer consumer and the family caregivers?
It's really kind of a two-pronged approach, and one of them is getting out. You mentioned the village. It's getting out there in the village. It's speaking anywhere that'll have us, frankly. I remember when you did your interview with Todd Brickhouse, he said the same thing. Speak anywhere that will have you, educate. And that is much more effective. We did a small assistive technology expo at a local nonprofit yesterday, and it was pretty well attended, and we had some people asking us some questions about our services and our product. But in interacting with the other vendors there were some people doing low vision products and some things that I hadn't seen. Interacting with them, they're going, I have a client that could use what you do, and this. So that's part of it. The other is Elisa Salvaggio, our phenomenal marketing and tech expert who comes from the service industry, is doing all the LinkedIn and the Facebook page and managing what we do with our local networking groups. And I would suggest too, in many areas, I know here in Pittsburgh we have at least 3 networking groups that focus on baby boomers, folks that sell to or have products or services for baby boomers. And you have to pick and choose, but that's been successful. Those links that we've made there. And if you're going to ask for some help and referrals, you need to offer that back too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a two-way street. And I think a lot of people think, well, what can I get out of this? If you're going to be involved, it's truly help one another, and you need to do your homework. Just because someone shows up at a networking group doesn't mean they're going to provide the kind of service that we would like to recommend. So
absolutely,
you absolutely have to sort of vet and check who who you're recommending. But we've been successful with that, and that has worked.
Excellent. Well, there's some really good ideas.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about a success story for your company? Somebody that's helped, you can leave out names, of course, or
Sure.
something amazing that's helped someone do.
Well, we talked about this yesterday when we were thinking that was likely a question that would be asked, and one of the ones that really is kind of representative of some of the things that we do here. There was a couple in their late 50s, maybe early 60s, and Jean, the wife, had suffered a stroke a few years back, and it obviously changed her life. And she was very, I wouldn't say in denial, but it just changed her personality to a great degree. And her husband, Sean, who was, he worked for the local county here, I believe, but very talented individual. And he had done a tremendous amount. Their home was absolutely beautiful. The home and the landscape around it, everything was pristine, very good. And he got some good advice about how to change the home. He built an entire outdoor area in the back, but she wanted it closed off. She didn't want even the neighbors to see her come out there in a wheelchair. It bothered her. So he did it in a way that was very respectful about what she wanted. But and they had already installed a stair lift from the basement floor to the upstairs. But she had vertigo, and it got worse in the last year. So she was no longer able to use that. Every time she got on the stair lift, she would get dizzy. She felt like she was going to fall over. So this restricted, she would only go out for doctors, or he had to take her in a wheelchair across the grass hilly yard, and that wasn't going to work. So they called us in and said, look, we don't want an elevator inside. What are the solutions? And we offered them probably 3 or 4 different options, went through this. And we knew at the time that the husband was going to need to be part of this. He wanted to help with the design. He wanted to actually help with some of the physical work, which we found a way to do without getting insurance involved. He was able to pour the concrete pad and make a retaining wall where a lift was going to go. So over time, we figured out that because she wasn't bothered by elevators and buildings, she could do vertical. That wasn't bothering her. We installed a vertical platform lift that went almost 12 feet. And put it at the front of the house, and then created a bridge that matched the existing porch. And the husband got to build the cladding that went across this bridge so that it would match what he had built on the porch already. So what could have been a big eyesore ended up blending, and he planted a tree in front. It blended in beautifully. He was involved. The wife felt comfortable, and Jean was looking for excuses to get out now because she could use her lift, get down, get in the car, and the whole process was maybe 3-4 months or whatever. And we actually went out and solved some other issues that they had in the house after that. And that's the kind of customer that says, anytime you ever need a reference, you tell them to call us, because you guys were great. Your guys were great. The crew, they were respectful. They respected when you could start working because she liked to sleep in. That was one that was really where we could see that a different approach would have never worked. If somebody came and tried to force something, particularly down, over the wife's objections, it just never would have worked. So
No way.
that was a great one. That was really a successful example of the way we like to do things.
Beautiful example. Thank you, Jim. That's perfect. And I could think of like 32 things that you said that, have everything to do with how you train your staff and the respect of your elders in the field, and the list goes on. And this is it's a long vision game, right? There's patience in getting to these kinds of sales, but boy, are they amazing referrals when you get it right. I mean, they love to talk about what works and what doesn't work in their life, so you got to be careful about that. But good for you. Cheers for all you've done with your own small business and obviously getting involved in your local communities. So what's on the horizon for you guys? Where you mentioned the best laid plans, right? Things will move and adjust on the fly. What's it look like for you moving forward?
We've got some exciting things happening, and one of the areas that we're really focusing on for years, especially in the catastrophic injury area, where I might get called in by an attorney or by a bank trust fund who someone was injured, and now they have some resources and they need to figure out how to make their life better. Environmental controls for people, not only catastrophic injuries, but ALS and Parkinson's and folks their capacities are diminishing. So for years, environmental control systems were very expensive. They were all computer based. A lot of it was proprietary. And to be able to have different switch access so someone can't use their hands, for example. If they had voice, they could use some of these computer systems to control different things in their home. But it was always very, very expensive, up to as late as 2 or 3 years ago. It was, and there are still very expensive systems out there now. But we are involved in keeping with our name, affordable, adaptive, in harnessing some of the newest products. This, I don't know how many of your viewers are familiar with this, but this is an Amazon Echo, which is the latest home automation and entertainment device from Amazon. That's an item that's under $200, and it's all voice activated. So with that and a few plug-in modules like this, or selective light bulbs, or controllers for door openers and things, we can go in and automate someone's home for maybe under $500 to get them started.
Wow,
that's a huge change.
Oh yeah, and I got to tell you, you might be sorry you ever brought that up, because I am a big home automation buff. I have been preaching that aging in place and home automation were just made to be together. I mean, the technology, nowadays, you can go out and get a home automation hub for $200, just like you showed us, and it's just crazy some of the stuff that you can do. But that's actually some really great planning. I'm excited to see that you guys are heading in that direction, because I just think it is ripe for someone to start really chipping away at it.
It is.
Well, you've listened to us enough. You know that, we really believe that part of a great business life is the balance of giving back and finding ways to pay it forward in your own community.
Yes.
So how does your company participate in your community or give back?
Well, through the years, I've served on any number of boards of directors for nonprofits. The Center for Independent Living here in Pittsburgh, and actually several others. As you mentioned earlier, I was on the City Planning Commission up until about a year ago. Served my term there, and was sort of the de facto accessibility expert on the Planning Commission, and had a lot of good input there, I think. There are some, of course, we do speak and do workshops for local MS Society and any of those other ones that ask us. So we do it that way. There's I'm trying to think of the name of it. Is it Silver Wish? There's a local organization that does, they do small wishes for seniors. Mm-hmm. That just a little thing that they need. They might want to go visit their daughter in another city, and a small plane flight. They'll pay for that. And they have a couple of fundraisers a year, and we get real involved in that, because it's really, many times somebody could use a a piece of technology or like I say, a trip to go see family, and they just say, well, there's no way I can afford that. And this organization hears about that through a number of different things, and they will very quietly make that happen. So things like that I think are really important. We're also at as many of the annual fundraising dinners for the nonprofits locally that we can be at, and again, it's giving back, but it's also being there and letting people know, hey, we're still here and where we are and those kind of things. So
it's a perfect combination, and good for you.
Yep.
We'd be silly not to admit that it serves a dual purpose. Absolutely. It's brand awareness in a social setting. So good for you. That's
Twilight
beautiful.
Wish was the name of it. I was searching for the name of that organization, Twilight Wish. So it's like the senior version of Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, good.
For kids. Cool. And that's one of my favorites because
awesome.
I think they really do some smaller amounts, but many more of them. So
cool.
It makes a difference.
Nice. Well, Jim, we're getting a little tight on time, but I want to make sure we get to our last question.
Sure.
What's your aha moment? What's the one nugget? Again, knowing that, we reach people across the nation, across the world, and we all feel that there's enough business for all of us. Share some insight. What's that thing you'd love to pass on to the small business owner that wants to get in this space or learn it better or grow?
I think it's actually what you just said is networking for unselfish reasons with others who are doing the same or similar things. I know we've had some educational things here. Just come over and have coffee and donuts with us with some of the occupational therapists, some of the in-home nursing, non-medical in-home helpers, companies like that, and just to sort of help them figure out where resources are. And even with what normally would be considered competitors, chances are they may have a different line or they sell things in maybe a different way. There is so much opportunity out there that it's unlike, I think, any other business that you really need to work together that everybody really is on the same goal, to help people, help our customers. And if you don't have that product, then, make the extra effort to see if you can help them find it somewhere else. And you're going to have a customer that will come back to you, even if they didn't buy something from you the first time.
Good advice is a referral waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, that was fantastic, Jim. You've been an awesome guest, and we're so thankful that you agreed to be with us and share with our listeners the story of your small business and some insight that can help them. I know that, I told you before that, we've really, really had a great reception to the interviews that we're doing with small business owners, and I think, honestly, that they just find it so inspirational to hear the stories from other owners just like them. So thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for what you're doing. I think it's really important to have a source for folks to come and, other business owners to see what's out there and what people are doing. So thank you.
Well, appreciate that, and thanks for the kudos, and spread the word. Like we say, you'll be retired, and so will I before we run out of work in this industry. So let's get more people into it.
Absolutely.
All right, Jim, you have a great day.
You too. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Booming Your Bottom Line Owners Chat with Jim Costello, and I hope you're leaving a little more inspired today. Thanks for listening. Please do share our episode on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And until next time, be well, be bold, and boom your bottom line.